Why should you treat your staff and guests as well as you treat your customers? Stay tuned and find out.
Welcome. Okay, here's the question. You serious? How are we dark horses? You know, the ones everyone is betting against, the ones they don't expect to win, place, or even show on the track, and they'll even laugh on us when we talk about trying. How do we show the world our greatness and triumph? Come on. Well, that's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. Let's go. This is The Dark Horse Entrepreneur. My name is Tracy Brinkman. And push it up.
What is up? What is up? What is up, my Dark Horse friends and family? Welcome back to your ongoing dose of star treatment learning. I'm your Dark Horse host, Tracy Brinkman, and you, that, my friend, is infinitely more important. You are a driven entrepreneur or one in the making. Either way, you're here because you're ready to start, restart, kickstart, just start leveling out with some great marketing, personal, or business tips and results in order to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it absolutely deserves to be. And that's why I'm here hitting you with that another solo success episode coming to you straight from the Dark Horse HQ as we dive deep into success with actionable advice, tips, and steps designed to help you level up your game, your business game, your personal game, your relationship game, your spiritual game, because we already know there are no shortcuts in the game of success except for taking those little steps towards your goal every single dang day. And as always, first step we want to take is make sure you're going down there, you're hitting that subscribe button, you're dropping a 5-star review, and you're leaving some kind words in the ratings. Don't have to be kind words. Tell me to F off. That's fine. Whatever. Just leaving some words, some suggestions. Maybe there's somebody you want to hear me interview. Maybe there's questions you want to ask. I read every single one of these reviews, and it is the subscribes, ratings, and reviews that are your way of telling those podcast platforms out there that you are getting value from this show. And they'll lift us up a little bit in the rankings as a result so that we can reach more driven entrepreneurs just like you. And then, hey, come on over and hang out with us in the Facebook group. Check us out on Instagram. Go to darkhorseschooling.com and you'll see all those social links right there. I look forward to connecting with you guys on a more personal level on the socials. So, as the title alludes to, treat your staff like superstars, not just your customers. Here's where this came from, and I didn't know I was going to share this today, and it hit me over the long holiday weekend. I'm recording this the Wednesday after Labor Day, and over the holiday weekend, my wife and my daughter and I, we went up to Green Bay, Wisconsin to go see one of our favorite brands, Through Fire. We've seen them on a number of occasions. I've been lucky enough to meet them and hang out with them a little bit, and got to do so again this past weekend. And here's where I'm going with this, because we've been lucky enough to see a large number of events. Of course, I'm speaking pre-pandemic here, right? When the rules were a little different, and seeing many venues behind the scenes as well as from the audience perspective, seeing them setting up the stages, doing sound checks, got to go back to their rooms. And I have to admit, you see these rock stars, pop stars, country stars, either superstars or just up-and-comers, and you think they have this lavish lifestyle, and maybe some of them do, but in quite a few occasions, and I'm going to say 80%, maybe 90% or better of the occasions of the events that we've been to, the accommodations aren't all that great. They're not like you would think, not always like you see in the movies and on the TV screen, where it's, wall-to-wall opulence. I mean, I've been to a number of nice venues where the accommodations were, kind of Motel 6-y. Which, maybe for the business model is necessary. And I've seen some. I remember seeing one. We went to go see Shinedown, and we got to do the backstage meet and greet and go to their dressing rooms and hang out with them. And the drummer had a separate dressing room set up for him to, just kind of warm up. He had an electronic drum set there, and it was really dark, and it almost felt like somebody's uncle's basement or something like that. It was just, I don't know, it wasn't what you would envision And now let me bring this full circle. So the event center that we went to is the Epic Event Center up just down the road from the Green Bay Packers stadium in Green Bay. And this is a newer event center. And the gentleman that opened it had it built for both the audience and the artists and staff in mind. And what do I mean by that? So when we went to go back and meet the band in this past event at this Epic Event Center, we were taken back, and there was this beautiful, clean room, bright lighting. There were murals, rock-oriented murals painted on the walls. There was this brand new dart machine. I want to say dartboard, but it was one of those dart games. And then there was a pool table. There was, I can't remember the brand name, but it was like a Nautilus type workout machine, with all the pulleys and the weights and everything. And there were some yoga balls and a yoga mat and just different things in this one room. And then they took us to the next room right next to that. And there was like a half court basketball court there. It was beautiful lacquered finish, and then the rack with like 6 basketballs sitting there. Again, beautifully lit. We went down back behind the stage, and everything was crisp and clean. And around the corner where the trucks back up to offload the equipment for the band that goes traveling, there were washing machines, and this is the first time in all the venues I've been in behind the scenes where I've seen washing machines there. Because I remember being at that Shinedown one I gave you the example of, and the artist was actually saying, they were showing how their wardrobes were traveling wardrobes on wheels, and they had it opened up with their costumes, the outfits that they would wear, and they were saying that sometimes they have to go multiple days, back-to-back shows, wearing the same outfits without them being washed. And let me tell you, it gets hot in them lights, ladies and gentlemen. You've never been on a stage, and if you've been on a stage or seen these guys up there, they're sweating. They're working their buns off up there, right? Singing and jumping around or playing instruments or whatever your particular favorite artist does when they perform. So you can imagine having to re-put on that same outfit over and over again, coated with last night's sweat and the night before and the night before that. So seeing this venue take care of these artists so well it's like 3 huge thumbs up, and all the artists are raving about this place. There was when we went there a couple of weekends ago to go see Tommy Vexed, one of the opening acts said, "You know what? Can I just do the rest of my entire music career here in this venue?" Which says a lot about that, not only this Epic Center venue, but all the other venues that particular artist has probably visited, right? So that led me to sharing with you, well, maybe not sharing with you. First off, sharing with you that story of how this guy took this idea of creating an event center that was great for the audience. Because trust me, from the audience perspective, this is a phenomenal venue. Lots of open space. There's a mezzanine level. The bars are well placed. There's a section off to the side for our disabled folks who want to enjoy the music, but can't be down there in the crowd getting banged around when there's mosh pits or headbangers or whatever's going on. And it's a very comfortable, it's a very nice and very clean venue. And the staff is happy. They're smiling. You just kind of feel this energy. You walk into this place and you just feel like, man, I just want to hang out here beyond just the rock and roll or whatever music is going on at the time. And so it made me think of, so many business owners, entrepreneurs, or just, corporate America. They remember to treat the guests like superstars, and I did my years in corporate America, and we always treated our visiting dignitaries, our rock and roll stars, like superstars. And I seen at times And I've seen to this day at times where entrepreneurs and business owners in corporate America forgets to treat their employees. The oil in the cogs of your machine, ladies and gentlemen, the ones that, are doing the daily grind, making sure that revenue is coming in the door and there's a profit to be had. Because if those folks disappear, poof, much like your superstars, then where are you going to be? So we have to remember to treat our staff like superstars, right? Not just our visiting dignitaries or guests. Just, of course, you want to treat the folks that are up there on the stage, under the lights like superstars that they are. But you want to treat your customers like superstars that they are, which means you should damn well treat your staff like the superstars that they are, because they're helping make all this stuff happen. Because it's one thing to have the band come in there, drag their gear in, set up the stage. A lot of times they have their own roadies. But if they're treated like heck, if they're treated lousy, then it's going to impact their performance, which is going to impact how the customers view that venue and the performance, and maybe they won't come back. And if they're treating them, those superstars like heck, those folks on the stage, then that's going to impact how they treat the staff, and that's going to impact how the staff. It's like this just circle of ongoing treatment, right? You treat them well, they treat you well, they treat the staff well, they treat the customers well, and it just keeps growing outwardly. Or on the opposite side, you treat it lousy, it starts going in and things deteriorate into nothingness. I mean, everyone was smiling. Even the officer, the sheriff, the member of the sheriff department that was there, adding in extra security, he had a smile on his face, and it's not too many times you'll see someone like that there, because usually they're doing it for extra money. It's part of their overtime piece. Usually it's not part of their normal work hours. It's to enhance their pay, actually, help make the ends meet. And usually they're not there of their own volition. They're there because they kind of have to be. But anyway, so I while we're here, I want to go ahead and leave you with some ideas to help treat your staff better. And some, not all of these will work in your scenario, but I want you to think of some ideas of how you can treat your staff like the superstars that they are. And it doesn't have to be about spending money. I mean, you could do something as simple as, if your folks are still coming in, have a casual dress day. Allow them to dress down. Maybe you have an environment where it's office casual. The guys are wearing khakis and polo shirts. So maybe on a Friday, jeans and t-shirts is okay. It's no big deal. I remember my Coca-Cola days when I first started with Coca-Cola corporate down downtown Atlanta. It was suits, right? Sport coat, shirt, collared shirt, tie, and slacks, and nice shoes. And then, a few years later, when I say a few years, maybe 5 years later, there was a dress down Fridays where you could come in office casual. So you had slacks and a polo shirt. And then, a couple of years behind that, the suits became more optional. Office casual became the norm. And then there was a jeans day kind of thing. So it happened over time. It didn't cost them anything, right? It didn't ruin their image. It didn't change anything. And the people were happier. Here's another one. Here's one that I want to think of. And this was one of my favorites. We've all heard about half-day Fridays, right? So we had half-day Fridays at Victoria's Secret. And what was cool about it is you didn't give up any hours. The employer didn't give up any hours. You just ended up working those hours Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then on Friday, you only had 4 hours of your 40-hour shift left. You came in, you worked those 4 hours, and you had a half day. And what was really cool about it, you could do those back to back and say, all right, I'm not going to have a half day this Friday, but I'm going to still work the same hours. But next Friday, I'm taking a full day. And they did that during the summer. And it was just amazing. The feel, the energy during that summer time frame when they were doing this. For me, I think it would be awesome to do that all the time. Create a welcome station. What do I mean by this? Just maybe a little spot in the office where every once in a while they can start their day with a free coffee or a pastry or something like that. A little sign in there. It says, hey, have a great day. It doesn't have to be all the time, just periodically, just pop in there, a little fold up table, grab some coffees and some pastries and put them in there. You could take this and spin it into a monthly or quarterly lunch where you buy in a lunch. I know I did this not too long ago for members of my team where we had 12 at the time, if I remember correctly. I had Qdoba come in and cater it, and it was like $150 for everybody, and there was food left over. We're not talking about breaking the bank stuff here. Now I know everything's going to be a little different with the COVID arena. Some folks now are doing a lot more online stuff, but there are work from home days, right? That's always a good thing. Bring your pet to work. We did this at Legendary Whitetails, which, most of the folks that worked there were hunters, so they had working dogs. So bringing those dogs in was always a good day. I think one of the keys here is mix it up, right? Don't get stuck in a rut. Say you're going to be having your monthly meeting. You're bringing everybody together for that monthly meeting. Maybe one time you take the meeting and it's a walking meeting. You do a lap around the building if it's a beautiful day and the sun is shining, it's not too hot and everyone's comfortable. You just kind of go for a stroll, or maybe you just walk outside and stand in the sunlight and chat for a few minutes, or just something like that can make it's just a break from the normal, the mundane. It's something to celebrate life. There you go. Celebrate the birthdays. One of the things we did at Legendary is we always brought in a big cake for the employees of the month, right? So you didn't have to celebrate on individual days. You could say, okay, here's all our August employees, and have some cake and, exchange cards, or, maybe there's a little gift involved, whatever it is. You feel where I'm going with this? You could host giveaways. You could, when I say giveaways, and things don't have to be lavish. They could be part of your product or service. They could be, a $5 gift card to Starbucks, but whatever it is you do it sincerely and do it for their benefit. And you don't have to do any of these special things. Sometimes the simplest things make the biggest difference, like giving praise when praise is due. We're so quick to jump on someone's case when they've messed up, they've made a mistake. But how about all the times where they did everything right and things went smoothly? Well, that's their job. Well, yeah, it is their job. But isn't it just as nice to walk over and say, Beth, you're doing an amazing job, and I definitely appreciate you. That takes just as much effort as walking over there saying, Beth, you really blew that sale yesterday, and we can't be having that. And here's where I think you made the mistake, and doing the coaching opportunity. It's just as easy to walk over and give that praise. I think it's even easier because you keep their spirits up. Something may have been going on in Beth's day that caused her to mess up that sale, right? And the coaching wasn't necessary. Her mind was over somewhere else. When you're given that praise, then their spirits are lifted and they're drawn back into the now of the activities they're doing for themselves and your business. And then, of course, on the other side of that, you're giving feedback. You want to listen as well. You want to hear their feedback. You want to acknowledge it and put it in place and give credit. Remember, we're talking about giving credit where credit's due. And hey, Beth came up with this amazing idea. I think it's great. We're going to start enacting it. Everyone let me know what you think. Just things like these little things, free things, have such a huge reward when it comes to the morale and activities of your employees and your staff. Treat them like the superstars that they are. All right, I'll leave that there with you for today about treat everyone like a superstar, right? And trust me, I'm going to be reaching out to the owner of the Epic Convention Center, the Epic Event Center in Green Bay, and trying to bring them on so you can hear the story of the creation of this beautiful event and why he did it. And with that, I'm going to leave you as I always do. Think successfully and take action.
Thank you for listening to the Dark Horse Entrepreneur Podcast.
And you know this!
Thanks for tuning in.
Check us out at www.darkhorseschooling.com.
All right.
My name is Tracy Brinkman.